Man, what an honor to have you here. I've known your name, read about you, man, the myth, the legend. Padawan from Buzz Price himself, a master of the craft, our Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Who we name our award winners after, I should say.
Right.
Man, I've got questions and notes. But how'd you start off in the industry, or like where'd you find those early inklings of, your passion and your talents?
Buzz Price was critical.
Really?
But so I was just graduated from business school.
Okay.
And I was looking for my first job. I thought I wanted to be a real estate developer. And so
coming from Orange County, Mid-Century, that's a good place to be.
A lot of models there.
Yeah.
And got in touch with ERA, Buzz Price, Economics Research Associates. Buzz Price was the founder. And they were real estate development companies, advisory company, consulting company. And so I thought, okay, that's a good place to start. So I went there.
What era is this? Or
this is 1971.
Without dating yourself.
Oh well, I'll date myself. I'm
so
past my sell-by date. But anyway.
So Disney World had just opened, or around that time, that era?
No,
hadn't even opened yet, probably.
Yeah, I think it was, if I remember correctly, around 72.
Okay.
So I went to work for ERA. And with Buzz and the whole crew. It was a big organization, and they were in real estate consulting, city redevelopment, resorts, and they had this little entertainment practice off to the side that Buzz started because he worked with Walt to put Disneyland together.
Right, out of Stanford Research.
Found the site. Yeah, Stanford Research.
Wow.
And Walt said, God, you're really good at this. Why don't you start your own company? And so he did. So Buzz did.
Wow.
So I went to work for Buzz and did a bunch of stuff on the real estate side.
Okay.
And then I saw that.
Now, in that area, I got to ask, that's kind of right at the peak regional theme park kind of industry in the 70s, and individual developers wanting to bring Disneyland and right-size it to their...
Yes.
Was that kind of keeping your practice busy?
But I want to make the transition for you. So I started out working with the real estate guys, and I saw that the guys down at the end of the hall were working on entertainment projects.
Oh, gotcha.
And so I said,
you're looking over the fence.
Yeah, exactly. Those guys are having all the fun. So I decided to slide over to that side of the firm, and yes, did get involved in all that. And Buzz was my mentor.
Okay.
And loved the man. Absolutely loved the man. And you're right, that was the era where some wealthy guy or some successful guy in whatever metro area you were talking about had this idea of building a little...
They could be their own Walt Disney.
Exactly.
Town, yeah.
Build a little theme park. And a lot of the industry got built in that regional theme park era. It was interesting, and then one of the things that led to a transition was that we sort of ran out of those kind of markets that would sustain some kind of...
Yeah, because you pretty reached saturation.
Yeah, in those days it was about $100 million to be in the regional theme park business, and so we sort of ran.
Wow, sounds like a drop in the bucket today, but
yeah, that doesn't get you started.
Yeah,
in the mega park era.
Right. Fascinating. Any favorites though of those parks? I mean, we were talking about like this little park in Memphis, Tennessee, Liberty Land. Yes. It was part of the Mid-South Fair, or Elvis's favorite park, right? The Zip and Pippin coaster.
And that, as you say, that grew out. That was like the amusement area of the fairgrounds, the Mid-South Fair, and so we helped them expand that into a little more of a sort of a compact theme park.
Yeah, that Tivoli Gardens mini park kind of idea.
Something short of Tivoli Gardens.
Okay.
It didn't have the same level of charm.
Sure.
But many every market, there was Six Flags, which built 3 parks and bought everything else to make their whole portfolio. Okay. They were players. The precursor to Cedar Fair was a player that was Taft Broadcast.
Oh, right, yeah.
Built, the first one was Cincinnati, and then they built
Kings Island,
then they built Kings Dominion, and some others. And SeaWorld, there were a whole bunch of them. But then, yeah, off we went. But we tapped out of the markets to be built, so we started.
So you did the U.S. in the 70s?
Yeah, we started thinking. Well, have to think about what's next.
Yeah.
So.
So did Japan come calling first, or Korea?
Japan, because of Disney went there, was a real driving force. Also, in that era, you remember the 80s and 90s, there was that era of Japan having a lot of money and a lot of aspirations.
Right.
And they went through that trophy property era. Yeah, we're buying up, very notable properties in the States and everywhere else.
And so all the hospitality development, the mega resorts in Hawaii,
right?
Pretty insane, right?
And then they wanted to copy Disney and build theme parks. We looked at a lot of theme parks in Japan.
Was it after Tokyo Disneyland, or
yes.
Okay?
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
And the studios wanted to be in the theme park business too, and we're looking at all kinds of foreign locations, Japan being prime,
Sure.
Korea, and then eventually China.
So which Universal, Warner Brothers, I mean, any of those that you had a chance to help advise?
All of them, all of the above. Universal ended up going to Osaka. Osaka has been extremely successsul for them, especially after they added Harry Potter a number of years ago, and really drove tourism.
Amazing park.
Yeah. And we've looked. Paramount was very interested in Japan, and we were focused for a long time on the southern island, Fukuoka, which would have been an interesting sort of destination kind of place, and others. But the big shift came. The big market opening was when China got.
Before we fly to China, though, I've got to ask you about CV Wood in Australia.
Oh, let's talk Australia.
Yeah.
Okay.
So CV Wood, for those that haven't heard the name.
CV Wood was one of the guys that built Disneyland.
But I mean, he had worked with Buzz at Stanford Research Institute before
he worked
that,
with
even.
Buzz, yes, and they were a part of the clan. He was also really good at making chili.
That's important.
Chili cook-offs.
It's important life skill.
That was his story. But the way that happened, CV Wood got back involved through Warner Brothers when Warner Brothers was looking at building Warner Brothers Movie World in Australia. But the lead up to that was, I was working for an Australian developer who had 500 acres between Brisbane and Surfers Paradise. And the first deal they made was with Dino De Laurentiis, a movie producer who built movie studios. He built one in North Carolina, and he was building the same kind of thing in Gold Coast, Australia. Okay. And so when we started to look at it with this property developer, Ariadne, we thought, we could think about a movie studio tour here. And then Ariadne was one of those Australian property developers in that era, which went up like a rocket and
roller coaster ride.
hit max elevation and then came down like a rocket.
Okay.
And so I mentioned I was doing a lot of work with Warner Bros. At the time. I mentioned that this was something we were looking at, and would they be interested? And then they had a great partnership with Village Roadshow, the movie exhibitor, investor, financier from Australia. And so Village came to look at it and said, yeah, let's do this together. And then eventually Village bought the SeaWorld park, which was just down the road in Surfers Paradise. And off they went. And so Warner Brothers, the head of Warner Brothers, Terry Semel, knew that there was this guy working for him over in this other movie lot that they had, who was, I forget what he was doing, but it wasn't anything very notable. And they said, well, CV, he built Disneyland. Let's get him to look at this. So he came in and
I know Walt
took over.
Walt wasn't super happy with that credit as the man who master planned and built Disney.
Right.
So I kind of had a little bit of a split, but
yeah,
but still pretty good.
That was ancient history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was really interesting, and it's a nice little park in Australia.
And right sized for the market.
Yes,
I assume.
Yeah, I think the analysis in those days was in the Australian market, which didn't get that much tourism. You could spend $100 million and get 1 million people. You could spend $200 million and get 1.1 million.
So to be clear, yeah, it was right size. It's not Universal Studios Beijing or Japan.
Right.
It's sized right to the
Exactly.
Gold Coast of Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's still going strong, right? Still.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And Warner's has built some other parks.
Yeah.
And they're very active with their IP. Of course, they have the most successful IP in the theme park world, which is the Universal deal.
Some of my favorite IPs for sure. We love
Harry
working
Potter.
with them, and
With Harry Potter, yeah.
Well, there's Batman, DC. There's a lot of great IPs.
Yeah, but I mean, the single best,
Sure. Harry Potter.
most lucrative theme
Absolutely.
park licensing deal is Harry Potter.
Yep. Liquid crack, butterbeer. Butterbeer, baby.
Yes, exactly. If you have a taste for that.
Oh, are you the one human on the planet that doesn't? You are.
I'm sure there's more than one.
Friend, I don't know. You're the first one I've met. So, hats off to you.
Really.
Wow. Okay. To me, it's usually an argument of which form, liquid or fried, or the frozen versus
yeah.
the soda.
We
Versus,
don't have that sweet tooth like that.
okay. Well, warm is the best, for the record.
Although I did just take my grandkids to Universal, and they did love the butterbeer.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, for the record, warm butterbeer, winter season, the best. But so fascinating. So you mentioned China. That was quite a ride. Huh?
That has been a crazy ride. In 1987, I got a call from a bright young guy, a Chinese guy, who was going to school in the U.S., but his father was one of the, overseas Chinese billionaires, who made his money in Malaysia, lived in Hong Kong, and he wanted to, in those days, put some money back into China, and it, that came to be known as the sucker play, because in China, in those days to do a deal, Party A was always the Chinese government. Party B was the money, the overseas money.
Okay.
But he had a line on this incredible property, this 800-acre piece of property in the eastern region of China, of Beijing, the Chaoyang district. And so we did a big study of what all could go in there, theme park and movie studio and, all kinds of things, plus a public park. That became Chaoyang Park, which is a big, notable park in Beijing. A lot of the commercial stuff did not get built, but there were shopping centers and other things. But anyway, that introduced us to China. And then Tiananmen Square happened, and interest in China went way down for a while. But then it came raging back. Tiananmen was in '89, so it came raging back in the '90s. And we were doing a lot of work over there, and eventually we opened an office with ERA office in China, in Hong Kong, and it was the beginning. And as you said, it was similar with a twist in the way the industry was developing. Cultural tourism was the hot term in China. So the local governments would want to make a land deal with the developer, and the developer would promise to create a cultural tourism destination. And that would be the license he would get. Then he could develop all this other stuff for apartments.
Right.
Giant, vast blocks of apartments. So a lot of the stuff got built that way. There was, the OCT group, Fanta Wild. There were several. And they went to all of
I've been
those.
a few of the Happy Valley parks.
Yeah, exactly.
The Six Flags of China.
That's OCT.
Yeah.
And they spotted them all over the place, but they got the rights to develop all the other stuff. And they were very successful.
Yeah.
That sort of drove the business for a long time. And China has a lot more 10 million person metro areas than we do.
Right.
So there's a deep opportunity.
Well, how long, with the Universal deal, was that a long kind kind of incubation period of finding the right site and getting that commitment?
It's interesting you ask, because it certainly was a long incubation period.
Yeah.
We got hired in the year 2000 by Universal to look at China, and they wanted to look at both Shanghai and Beijing. And of course, at the time, Disney was very interested in Shanghai. So it was a bit of a race for Shanghai. Disney eventually won that race and made their deal. Universal still wanted to go to Shanghai, but then they started their having to look elsewhere. So they looked at Beijing. And the overview of the story is, we started in 2000, park opened in 2021.
Wow.
So
2 decades.
So they went from Shanghai to Beijing and they couldn't get into Beijing at the time because the Chinese government considered Beijing where all the real cultural treasures were for China. And
didn't want American IPs diluting.
Didn't want the Crafts American movie studio in there. So we went to Guangzhou, and then came back to Beijing, got rejected again, and then came back again with the Beijing Tourism Authority as a partner.
Oh, okay.
And got the deal done.
Wow.
And it opened in 2021. Magnificent.
Beautiful park.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. And they found it's
amazing that happened at the capital of communist China.
It is. And there was, it's an amazing site. I mean, the Chinese government provided 2 rail lines, train stations, highway improvements. This site made it happen.
Now, members of our team, Jeff Damerman, worked on the master plan. Can you explain the difference of just a theme park business model, one gated attraction versus really, again, that master development model where you're looking at kind of all the synergistic land uses? And
well, there's 2 parts to that story.
Yeah.
So, and use Beijing as an example.
Yeah.
So I'll get the actual acreages wrong. Universal Studios Beijing property is about 1,000 acres. Mm-hmm. And then, but they acquired, I think it's a total of 4,000 acres around it. And so the economics of the theme park is, nobody wants to just build a theme park anymore. The economics are build a destination and get people to stay for multiple days. So that their 1,000 acres is master plan.
So instead of 5 hours, get 5 days maybe.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And the money you make off of that's a great deal larger. So the actual theme park master plan calls for the big Universal Studios theme park, City Walk, an amphitheater, a water park, 6 hotels, and another gate, undetermined. But then the 3,000 acres around it, we actually help master plan that. That's for all kinds of related development, residential, commercial, sort of creative industrial stuff.
So it's kind of like Val d'Europe around Disneyland Paris. It's really an entire new town.
That's exactly
around the original critical
right.
mass.
And the really important part of that is that the business now has really become building destinations. Yeah. And you said it exactly.
And not just for tourists. I mean, for destinations for locals and even
with retail and hotels and even just a nighttime visitation to go to City Walk or downtown Disney or something like that. Yeah.
That idea of capturing that spending beyond the berm with initially kind of urban entertainment development anchored retail, as Urban Land Institute was trying to capture the typology early on with the Universal City Walks, the retail dining entertainment.
That's right.
So you were involved in seeing that from the beginning, right?
If we go back to the regional park days, as I started to say, we ran out of runway on building regional parks. Yeah. So the question is, there's 2 things to do. One is go international, which we did, but there's also the question of what's the next product? How do we take what we learned and apply it in different ways? And so we at ERA, we started to look at integrating entertainment into all kinds of other development. And at the same time, retail was looking for other ways to develop retailers. The department stores were having trouble then. They're having even much more trouble now.
This is before Amazon.
No, but it was the first wave of
Okay.
that. Yeah. So we said, what are the other anchors you can bolt retail onto and make sort of urban entertainment out of it? And as you said, ULI was very focused on that. I was part of getting them focused on the urban setting for entertainment. And so we looked at there were several sort of precursor models of what that might be. And one of them was a project in San Francisco called Yerba Buena Gardens, which was an urban...
Oh, Sony Metreon.
Sony Metreon was the last piece of that. It was also the Moscone Convention Center, which was built underground, so we could build on top of it with the whole development.
Okay.
But, that development was a mixed-use development. 1.5 million square feet of office, a 1,500-room hotel, and an 800-room hotel.
Wow.
And then the gardens of Yerba Buena Gardens and a cultural district on the side designed by Fumiko Maki, famous Japanese architect. Museum, children's attraction on the third block, and then the last piece was this entertainment retail piece, which ended up becoming the Sony Metreon. Another one that was formative to how do you put, just to finish that off, so that was the first urban renewal project, urban redevelopment project that was based on entertainment as a driving force.
Sure.
They called it, San Francisco called it CARE, C-A-R-E, Cultural, Amusement, Recreation, Entertainment.
Interesting.
And that was the real driving force of it. So that was projects like that helped set the stage for which became a real development trend.
So you had like a city walk with a theme park anchor. You had that with a convention center anchor. How about the sports anchors?
The sports
Live.
anchors, exactly. The precursor to LA Live and several other entertainment districts around sports facilities was a project called Blockbuster Park, which did not happen. It was Blockbuster Entertainment. Wayne Huizenga was the chairman of Blockbuster. He owned 3 of the major league sports teams in South Florida, in Miami. He had the Dolphins, the Marlins, and the Panthers. And he also owned Joe Robbie Stadium. So he's had this idea: I want people to come to the stadium early and spend more time, and have dinner, drinks, whatever, and then stay late to miss the traffic. And that's what he kept going back to, that thought process. We ultimately decided that Joe Robbie wasn't the right place to do that. So he ended up being Wayne Huizenga. He ended up buying 3,500 acres on the Dade-Broward County line. And we did this big master plan of what all that could be. And it was theme parks, and it was resorts, and it was a baseball stadium and a hockey arena and everything. And then that was right at the time of the famous entertainment event in the history of studios. Sumner Redstone was trying to buy Viacom and Paramount, and he brought Wayne into the deal with Blockbuster. Wayne was really smart. This is the early 90s. Wayne was a really smart guy. He knew that Blockbuster had a shelf life, that streaming was coming.
Sure.
So he was looking for an out.
Wow.
So he put Blockbuster into that deal. And then, long story short, Sumner came to have us show him how Blockbuster, what a great idea Blockbuster Park was. And he looked at Wayne and he said, "Wayne, who owns these sports teams?" And Wayne says, "Well, I do." And Sumner said, "Well, why would I want to invest in that?"
Oh.
And that was the end of it.
Okay.
That was the end of it. But it was the idea of building an entertainment district around another kind of anchor.
Yeah.
I mean, we went from department stores to like with Metreon, an urban area with convention center as an anchor, to this with sports facilities. So that led to things like LA Live and Titletown at Green Bay Packers, and the area around in downtown Detroit. That whole entertainment district is evolving now with the Red Wings and the Ford Field for football and Co-America Park for baseball. So, yeah, that's been a really strong trend.
Yeah. So, talking about new typologies beyond the berm of, theme parks and taking entertainment on the road, I know you guys have done a lot of pretty amazing work in the nonprofit cultural space. I was just curious about a project like Getty Center, when you have this almost unlimited capital, crazy, amazing site, unlimited, massive metro population. How does that feasibility even work when you can pretty much build anything you want?
Well, you use the word feasibility. I was usually hired to do a feasibility study of something, but of course, with Getty with $8 billion in the bank, and they had this 800-acre parcel of land on a hill in Brentwood area of Los Angeles. They came to us and said, we're doing this, and the museum's going to be free, and we know we'll get plenty of people to come.
Kind of messes up your spreadsheet.
Yeah,
right?
we don't need to do a feasibility study here. Right. But what they did want to do is they wanted to sort of optimize the visitor experience.
Okay.
And we were sort of hired as the watchdog of the visitor experience.
Wow.
And so we did these sort of visitor simulation models, how people would pass through it, how long they dwell, whatever they stay, or everything. Because one of the criteria was they didn't want customers or visitors to wait more than 5 minutes for anything. So it was all those kind of that kind of thought process, and what's the flow, and working with Richard Meyer, which is amazing, and it's a magnificent
it is
$1 billion building.
I was just up there with my youngest son before I sent him off to college to be inspired, and it was amazing.
Well, the grounds and the garden that
what an amenity, what a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell people that come to Southern California, like, do that before you do Disneyland even or something. So, well, it's free for starters, and it's amazing. And if you time it right with Sunset, it's funny, close to heaven as you get.
It's funny you say Disney, because one of the things that the Getty people were being very advanced art people. They didn't want it to smack of Disney in any way. But they had this dilemma, because the site, the museum was going to be sited on top of a hill.
Yeah,
on top of a hill, the Acropolis, exactly. But the parking was down here off the freeway, and it was a half mile, 3/4 mile distant and up. And so in the middle of the planning process, we started talking about that and said, well, how parking's here and the museum's here. How are we going to get people up there? And they said, well, they had a roadway that went up there, and said, well, run people up in buses. And I said, you can't build the best museum in the world and put people on smelly old buses to get up there. So I said, let me introduce you to somebody. So I knew the guy who was the Intamin, the amusement ride builder, operator, inventor, out of Europe, but he was based in the Bay Area, and I had him come down and talk to them about what was possible. And the Intamin, like growing up out of the mountainous areas of Europe, started out building funiculars. Yeah, funiculars. So we started talking about that, and ultimately built that funicular, even though they were the Getty people were quite annoyed by the idea at first, because they used it. We don't want to be Disneyfied. Yeah. But anyway, it became quite a notable thing. And I've noticed, even just lately, in the last few months, because I live in that area, the museum itself and everything about it is Richard Meyer pure white.
Sure.
That's his design. Yep. Palette. But they've just recently painted the cars on the funicular.
Yeah.
All these wild colors and stuff. So
that's great.
They're having some fun with it.
Well, it's a classic LA thing with the Angels Flight, the world's shortest railway.
Yeah,
kind of a downtown.
Exactly.
Even at Six Flags. And
But it became a very notable feature of the place.
Absolutely, yeah, unique entry experience.
Yeah.
Well, again, the strategery aspect of what you bring to the industry and what, I think you touched on it there, where it's not just about numbers and spreadsheets and sizing, as important as that is, but can you explain a little bit more how that actually really does shape the guest experience if something is oversized, undersized? I know for me, the eye-opener was experiencing the 2010 World Expo in Shanghai, when I saw people getting crushed from their kids, and it was life and death. This was not about people waiting 8 hours to get into the Saudi Pavilion. This was not about guest convenience or comment cards. This was survival of the fittest. To where I learned, wow, this is not fun and games. This is like serious business. That if you get it wrong, it can really do some damage.
Well, that was one of the brilliant things that Buzz did, was sort of invent this whole methodology of how do you plan these kinds of visitor attractions. He wrote a book about it. I forget the exact title.
I call it roller coaster math, but Walt's Revolution.
Walt's Revolution.
Yeah. It used to be required reading to anybody that wanted to work with us. I think it's out of print now. I'm shocked. That
would be too bad. But he really was a pioneer on a lot of that stuff, and so we took it and in our day made much more complicated computer models out of all of that. But there's a whole methodology, and when I talk to people about what I do, and people are always a little shocked to learn that there's a science behind how do you do these things, how do you plan these things, and things like throughput capacity and all that stuff.
Any examples you've seen of getting it really right or getting it really wrong?
Well, Disney's the pro, but I mean, you can still get overwhelmed. I mean, first time I went to Tokyo Disneyland, and they're a very orderly culture, right? I mean, they stand in a line for 4 hours or something.
Right.
It's crazy.
They don't even need stanchions.
Yeah, right. But now, in the theme park world today, we have these upgrade tickets so that you can, don't have to stand in line so much, which are a huge convenience and quite expensive.
Quite a revenue per capita.
It is. It's turned
lever for the.
In financial analysis for theme parks, we always used to take, the standardized ticket price, a full adult in season, and then, there's 30 discounts you apply to that. Kids, seniors, off-season, special groups and promotions and all that stuff. And you discount whatever the ticket price is, and you get the yield factor. That's the amount of revenue you actually get when you take all the discounts into account at the end of the year, right? And for years that was going down as the resident market-based parks like the Six Flags and stuff, where it was coming down because they were running all these promotions to get people to come and essentially buying attendance. But in today's world, because of all these upcharges you can get, it started to go back up the other way.
Wow.
In a place like Disney, I mean, they're the winners.
Yeah. It's a challenge when Walt's mantra of everybody's a VIP. Unless you want to pay a little extra, then you're a VVIP.
Yeah, VV.
Well, in terms of where you see the industry going, whether it's geographically, technologically, IP, I mean, you've been in a lot of these charrettes, right, where you're trying to make that marriage happen between the right level of investment, the right IP, the right sizing. I kind of call it the magic mix of soil, silver, and story. The right site with the right demographics, the right IP or the right soil-specific content story that you want to leverage or capitalize on, and then the right, at least seed capital, the right level of initial investment to attract additional investment. Any road warrior stories or stuff that you're allowed to talk about out of school now that you're kind of...
Well, in my ECA days, we used to make a map of the world and show, this is where, this type of development, theme parks or whatever, has happened. Mm-hmm. This is where it was likely going to happen. This is where it's already happened and didn't work, or whatever. Certainly, the U.S. and Europe are at the top of the list of sort of fully penetrated built environments. China has come on like a racehorse. Now their economy is having some difficulties, and there's not as much development.
New stuff
going on there now. Southeast Asia is a real strong opportunity. We helped Legoland come to Malaysia, which was their first Asian park. They've since gone to, Korea and Japan and China. So I think Southeast Asia is something to look at. South America, geographically, is very undeveloped. Mm-hmm. There's economies sort of go up and down. It's hard to take a high capex investment and have to weather those storms. Mm-hmm. There is a global play, but in terms of the industry, where the industry is going is constantly more sophisticated products, with the new technologies and things like that.
And the IP holders requiring a certain level of quality.
IP is an important trend.
That's a whole other thing. Yeah.
More and more IP being applied.
We're seeing a lot of gaming IP now coming to the table.
Exactly. I know you're involved in
movies
that.
and music. Yeah, it's keeping us plenty busy.
Yeah. And then there's a lot of consolidation going into the industry. So fewer players, bigger plays. This idea of building destinations. The end price for a mega. We talk about mega theme parks being right now Disney's and Universal's, the major parks, but the end price for a mega park these days is $5 billion.
Yeah,
and up. So not that many opportunities to see it. I should come back geographically and say India, because India, for a number of years, we've looked at it several times, and when is the right time? And it's sort of been a rolling 10 years, but it's catching up to us, I think. Well,
you see emerging typologies that are a little bit more bite-sized, not $5 billion, not Universal, not Disney. Is there a way to grow into that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, in the broader world of LBE, location-based entertainment, versus just talking about theme parks, I always thought in these emerging markets, the way to enter them was with the smaller products.
Yeah.
The $20 or $50 million thing instead of the billions of dollar thing.
And would you agree? Sometimes you can
establish a brand that way.
Yeah, and sometimes if you have the site, you can master plan it for an organic, incremental build out into something that's a destination.
Yeah, but
a little more humbly.
Yeah, yes, but the way it's typically been done is to put some kind of entertainment ideas into boxes,
right?
And
put
them into where people are already going,
right?
To a mall,
right?
So that, but you can build brand there. You can build brand IP awareness, and make inroads into that world.
Tell me this, in terms of the U.S., when I think about the family entertainment center market, we think of a pretty suburban kind of model, the miniature golf and the track. Usually it's not really IP related, take a Boomers or whatever. It seems like a pretty specific model, whereas internationally I see all this wild and crazy stuff in terms of different IPs and integration in the malls and, really kind of more significant destinations and really kind of a little bit more free thinking and entrepreneurial. Why is that? Why is the U.S. FEC market kind of so limited in terms of the kind of creativity and the
well,
the model?
I think we're trying to do it, but it's been a bit hard. One of the most wonderful indoor attraction ideas that I've been involved in has been two models I'll talk about. One is Kidzania, which is just a great concept invented by a really great guy, Javier Lopez in Mexico. He built the first one. I went down right after he built it, looked at it, and we helped him plan. This works here. Let's go to the U.S. Let's go globally. he's never really been able to get a lot of traction in the U.S. because it's hard to make those deals. Because his is it's a 70,000 foot footprint or 80,000. But he's got 28 of them around the world. And it's really wonderful. The other model for a global rollout has been what Merlin has done with their, and they have 4, 5, 6, depending on how you count, of these different
Midway products.
Midway, they call it Midway.
Yeah,
entertainment
cluster up.
Yes, exactly. Indoor attraction ideas. Sure. And I think they're up to 140 or 150 of them around the world now. I think there's an opportunity to do those things. I know Sony opened one in Chicago that's playing the more social entertainment idea. Like food and beverage is a big part. Yeah. Dave & Buster's was the precursor. Top Gun has done a great job with it.
Top Golf.
Top Golf. Yeah, Top Gun. Top Golf.
We're still working on the Top Gun.
Yeah, right, exactly.
But yeah, Putt Shack, there's all these great social competitive models that some smaller than.
And, the soccer thing with the Toka, and I think social entertainment is going to be a big driver of that in the States.
Awesome. Well, man, your career spanned a few decades.
More than
without dating yourself. 71, 2024. Summarizing the major brain damage that you've incurred over the years that you would want to pass on to the next generation, any high level kind of learnings or thoughts or.
The truth is I've loved it. I've loved, applying science to the business of fun, right? And it's been a great ride. We've been right in the middle of a number of very important projects, but I think the thing I'll take away is that since I did it so long, like a lot of the people, clients and colleagues that I worked with, designers and everybody else, those people became friends, and it was very enjoyable to do the work. Yeah, and it's a great career.
I can't imagine the relationships, the introductions, the connectors, the projects that probably wouldn't have happened if you weren't in the mix because of the intros that happened. If we could figure out how to, monetize those finder fees.
Oh yeah, we talked about that. That was not something I ever really managed to do.
Yeah, but ultimately your delivery was a lot more than spreadsheets.
I mean, so. My career is based on a lot of math and computer models and stuff and studies of feasibility. But the real fun for me was when it was more like advisory and you're part of the team to figure some of these things out.
You're part of that client.
To the next generation, next gens out there who might be watching. It's a fun business.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Ray, for, again, all that you've done, really also in service, not just the industry, but Theme Entertainment Association, including taking the time out here to be with us and field some more questions. Just humbled and honored.
I appreciate it,
man. All right, thanks, Ray. Well, Ray, if you can't tell, I'm passionate about all of your strategery and brain damage, and that interview was one of the longer interviews, and I could just keep going on. And we've got a nice little group here that has some great questions already. Thanks again for doing this.
It was really fun talking to you. It was really enjoyable. You spurred a lot of that conversation, but we talked about a lot of stuff.
We covered some ground. Well, I keep saying a couple of decades, but we're talking a half a century span. And to me, that's pretty impressive.
5 decades for me.
That's impressive. Did you want to change any of your answers or redact anything before we go on? That was some amazing stuff.
I was quite intrigued by our conversation. I'd forgotten it, and I think we did a pretty good coverage on the industry in the last 5 decades.
Well, yeah, maybe we can be a little bit more future focused. I did want to thank Matthew for pointing out that Buzz's book, Walt's Revolution, that we mentioned is still available. I didn't realize it's actually published by one of our mutual friends and clients, Ripley's Entertainment. So I assume that'll be available into into the future and beyond. So that's good news.
Of course, I was all over it when it first came out, and congratulated Buzz. I thought it was great, and but yeah, I lost track of where it stood in the publishing world.
Well, it's just such a great primer, for kind of property virgin entry, themed experience development entry, newbies to get some left and right brain stuff.
He really loved doodling around with that stuff. Yeah, he was a pioneer in so many ways.
Well, the two words of inspiration and wisdom, I think, the yes if. Model that he was able to provide to take care of Walt. I think that's pretty magic. That it's not always about
See, that's the transition between pure numbers and just inputting into formulas and stuff and getting a yes no answer. But when you start to get into sort of the more advisory side of the business, that's sort of yes but, yes if, you can. You can get more working together with the team and with the client, and sort of then find the optimum solution.
Yeah, I mean, any other kind of colleagues, proteges of Buzz's, any other Buzz stories before we kind of move on? Again, we name our industry Lifetime Achievement Award after Buzz Price. And I think no one today, no one in the know is shocked or surprised by that. But I think for a lot of people that, don't really know his reputation or whatever, they're like, who's Buzz Price?
He was the first to get that award, and it became named after him. It was a great TEA gala when that was when he first got it, and a lot of fun. But so Buzz started ERA, and that's the company that I joined before I left and started my own. ECA, trading shamelessly on the brand, ERA. ERA really spawned the whole industry. So most of the people out there that are doing this kind of work, tie back to ERA in some ways. Either, Buzz or I hired them, or they were out in one of the offices or whatever. But that's largely the leadership of the economic analysis industry of entertainment development.
I think people are just so intrigued because everyone just assumes that, Walt had this, brainchild idea. And of course, it came out exactly like what was in his head without ever really thinking about kind of the collaboration and kind of negotiations and the iterations that went into that.
On the number side, Buzz was instrumental, but there's a great story about this fellow, Herbie Ryman, who was an animator and an artist for Disney, and he started to doodle what the thing would look like. And as Walt would sort of say, here's what I want to do, and so he put that. They went away for a 48-hour
long weekend,
and batted out the first sort of aerial view layout of Disneyland, and that's really great. And he was a great artist. In fact, I'm on a board in his honor, the Ryman Arts Organization, which funds art education for teenage high school kids that don't maybe have access to art education. So he's a huge figure in the industry.
Yeah, well, I think we still call that original piece the Magna Carta of at least Walt Disney Imagineering. It's quite a aura emanating for that piece of art. Well, again, related to Buzz, first question someone asks is, anyone ever rebelled against that roller coaster math and learned the hard way or conversely, were pleasantly surprised, because they actually learned something new that violated. Like, where did someone break the rules and either biff it or win it because of that?
I don't know that they totally rejected that kind of math, but a lot of people in those pioneering years, just after Disneyland and when the regional theme park industry was starting out, there was plenty of people who were charging ahead without necessarily about things so well. The notable one, what was it called? It was called outside of New York.
Oh, Freedom Land, USA.
Freedom Land, thank you.
The Bronx.
Yes.
The Bronx.
And that was a big elaborate development that didn't pay attention to some of the basics and didn't do well. But there's plenty of examples of, fixing things. Maybe we used to think with a whole new product, if you got 70 or 80% of it right, you're probably doing pretty good. And you fix those kinds of things over time. Reinvestment. As Walt said, Disneyland will never be completed. Will never be done. We're always going to be, replacing rides, adding new attractions, creating new kinds of environments and technologies.
Yeah. I think we got a little bit of a morbid curiosity about these postmortems. Like someone else is asking, is there a project that you're allowed to talk about where, basically just either the feasibility, the cost estimate, just something just did not match the reality, and what would you attribute that disconnect to?
I don't know if I put my finger on specifics straight away, but I will tell you that when we started going to China and doing a lot of work in China, and it was always, these, as I said in the previous interview with you, there was this big push for cultural tourism and building, and developers would have want to get a big piece of land to do all kinds of development, but then in order to get it from the city, they had to do a cultural tourism project, and sometimes that turned out to be a theme park, or a lot of times it did. But these chairmen of these companies that had been successful in China as developers or insurance companies or whatever they were, the chairmen of these companies were used to doing things their way, and we're used to being successful, and we're used to, calling all the shots. And we had a lot of arguments over what was possible and what you need, what was the right way to do things. And and there were some tragedies there.
Back to the Getty Center, I was kind of fascinated by that piece of the conversation because, as we mentioned, it's not about financial feasibility since it's a gift really and it's free. But the fact that you also were talking about the sizing and the guest experience and the wait times and I'm sure that the THRC came into play at some point, because obviously that's how. But when you're talking about your attendance forecasts and sizing, someone asked. Just at that, did the John Paul Getty name mean anything? The art collection itself, was it the actual physical setting, the environment, the architecture, the CapEx? Like, how do you even begin to figure out how many people are actually going to show up to this thing, regardless of whether it's free or not? Because you've got all these different factors where it's not just a typical, hey, we got this IP or this CapEx. Like, is it based on the market size or?
Yeah, well. Not as much as theme parks. In theme parks, we have a real good methodology that's been sorted out over the years in terms of the primary markets applying a certain penetration rate, the secondary market, the tourism market, those kinds of things, and the intensity of those penetration rates is driven by investment. When you start to get into other areas like cultural attractions, there's not the same kind of formulas. But we did attendance projections for J. Paul Getty, and there's there's a ultimately that became kind of capacity constraints too. That sets some upper limits, but you start looking at your day parts and what can you do in the low days versus what you do in the obvious high days, and so you can get a sense of what that number's going to be, and it pretty solid with the Getty, but you're right. The attraction is, like with the Getty, I mean, it's not just a museum building in the middle of an urban area. It is an attraction in and of itself. You ride the funicular up in the view of Los Angeles and the gardens, and it's pretty spectacular. And then, of course, there's other drivers to how many people are going to come. How do you refresh attendance? And that's with the special exhibits and stuff. And one of the buildings of the 4 big gallery buildings of the Getty Center is special exhibit buildings, and so you do that all the time. That's your marketing leverage, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Darren, our Western Division Board Chairman or President or Chairman. We've got some really insightful questions that he's peppered in. But one of them, I was curious as well, having worked on, Shanghai and Beijing, you got Disney, both these, mega players looking at these 2 primary mainland Chinese locations. Any significant, interesting differences between those 2 in terms of feasibility, economics of the resorts of that particular scale? Or are they kind of, more similar than different?
Well, they're becoming more similar, but going way back to Disneyland, I mean, I say, taught us the 2 things we need to know about the theme park industry. First of all, he invented it with Disneyland, and then he went to Florida, got 27,000 acres, and built a destination. And that's the second chapter of how do you do it. Universal has aspired to follow some of the Disney formulas and lessons. Certainly, they're trying to build destinations now. They understand that. They understand the hotel business, which is a great partnership they have with Lowe's hotels for most of their locations. And the City Walk is a component to that. So they're building a complete destination. When it was a bit of a horse race in Shanghai, it was a funny story. We were there with a group to meet with the city officials about the Universal proposed Universal project, and when we arrived checked in the front desk at the building where the city officials were, one of my people, a Chinese speaker, heard the receptionist translate what we were doing and calling upstairs to tell who was here, and they said, "Oh, the Disney people are here." So it was a tight race, but yeah, Universal is, as you see with Epic Universe, that gives them three major parks and a water park. Disney is 4 major parks and 2 water parks, and lots and lots of hotels. And Universal has been acquiring that other land where Epic Universe sits, and that's really increasing the Universal presence, and it's a very strong product. And so Universal is catching up in their scale of development to what Disney does.
Yeah, it almost makes me think of Orlando different as a market because it's kind of like Hawaii. You could go to Maui or you can go to Kauai, but you kind of could try to pull it all off, but it's really not, what I would advise a first timer. You kind of almost want to pick your vacation and just, dwell and enjoy that.
We thinking about that, what is the capacity for Orlando in ticket sales for theme parks? And we did a pretty elaborate analysis of that, looking at population and population growth, looking at tourism and tourism growth, and looking at the number of parks there are, and then the number of theme park visits per capita of people in the market, and how do those things have to grow to enable a big enough market to handle another park in the growth of the market. So it's all of those factors and length of stay in the market. And so does Epic Universe click over to a longer length of stay in the market? So is it no longer a 5-day trip, or is it now a 7-day trip? And how do you fit in Disney and Universal? Disney has built their business not wanting you to leave their property, right? So how does all that work is a great story that's unfolding in Orlando right now. Yeah.
Well, can't wait to read your chapter on how it all plays out in a few years. Another great question, the baseline of a lot of this work is going to be assumptions, right? Cost factors, that you use in feasibility and attendance numbers. When you're putting that kind of stuff together, are parks and attractions operators, are they forthcoming and sharing kind of those actual costs, profit margins, or is it kind of more rule of thumb guidelines? Or where's the kind of source material coming for all of this content?
All over the place. A couple stories there. Doing so many theme park studies and working for the theme park companies, eventually we build up a database of information. So we at ERA and then at ECA. So that informs, especially it's hard enough getting attendance information because the industry is kind of closed up that way. And the parks don't like to say how many attendees come, and even Disney buries it with their in their annual reports, their financial reports. But years ago, when amusement business used to do that annual attendance list from the past year from all the parks, and what was the guy's name who did that? Really nice guy, writer for amusement business, and they wanted to stop doing it, and they came to us, and I said, well, we ERA will do it for you. And so I had to run around and talk to all the park guys, the chairmen and CEOs, and try it and tell them, data and information is useful to an industry. It helps growth of, people to understand the industry better. And it's good to get that out there. And not very many people really bought the argument. But over time, it's been the list, which then AECOM took over when they bought ERA. And now just this year, it's going back to ECA. So my former partners at ECA are going to be doing it.
Well, I didn't know if you had anything to do with that decision, but I wanted to kind of, by extension, thank you for partnering with us at Storyland Studios, Themed Entertainment Association, ECA. I was just going to mention that.
Yeah, right. Well, yes, ECA and Storyland are putting that attendance report together, which is going to be great. There is, it's still a challenge to get precise insider information from the parks, but I think that's it's much better established in terms of the annual attendance list. Profit margin and insider stuff like that is quite a bit more difficult to get a hold of. So, I think the main way was we built models, and we did it based on the information that we knew from working with various operators, and sort of pieced it together a bit.
Well, not to keep plugging it, but the newly rebranded Global Experience Index, just to kind of encompass, like we said, it's not just about the mega, parks or whatever. We've got a full experience destination industry to encompass.
Exactly. And I wasn't, I left, retired from ECA last year, and or actually 25, so it's been more than a year. So Christian Owen and Ed Shaw, my former partners, are running it now, and they made this offer to take over this list and do it with this surprising group called Storyland to put the published package together. So it's going to be great.
Well, we are grateful. And with that, Ray, we're past the top of the hour. Just wanted to thank you again for how much time you've poured into not just this interview, but the Themed Entertainment Association as a master. All you've contributed to our nascent industry. I think hopefully relative young industry still, but for you to be there for that half century that you were, man, what a key role you've played in shaping our humble little cottage industry here. And really thanks for all the insights and brain damage you've shared.
Well, thank you, Mel. And with you and others in the industry, it's in good hands to go forward.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. Take care.